It makes me always wonder whether it's possible for local people just simply pass by without giving a look, because I personally can't take my eyes off of Saint Isaac Cathedral, which is the landmark, and it's bombastic with an exterior and interior, and it's going to be a mistake if you miss it while in St. Petersburg. Designed and constructed in the 19th century according to the project of Auguste de Montferrand, the cathedral is the most intriguing and also very complex and the largest example of the classicism which prevailed in Russia at the age of the 18th and the 19th century. One can easily recognize this is the symbol of power, the symbol of the prosperous and great Russian Empire, as the exterior consists of the sculptures, statues and high reliefs adorning the porticos, gables and the balustrade of the main dome of the cathedral. It's solemn and splendor. So completed in 1858, the cathedral has the height of 101 meters, the width inside is around 97 meters, and the diameter of the main cupola inside is 21 meters. It is decorated with 112 columns outside, and the walls are faced with a grayish Ruschiale marble. Let me introduce our guide for today. This is Alexandra. She's going to tell us a bit more about the cathedral.
My name is Alexandra, and I would like to show you this unique model of the cathedral. It is a little older than the cathedral. It was made in the 19th century. It was made of linden wood without any nails or glue. And we can see all the details of decoration of this temple in this model. And we can see here all the details. We can see sculptures, bells in the bell towers, and we also can see these columns. These columns you can see when you enter it in the temple, and these columns are granite monoliths. They are very heavy. They weigh 114 tons each column. These columns, they were extracted manually all year round on the territory of Finland. Then they were delivered to St. Petersburg on specially constructed ships. Here they were finally grinded, polished, but the most difficult part of the work was to install these columns into a vertical position. And now we can see the model of scaffoldings which allowed to raise these columns manually. A great engineer, Auguste de Montferrand, he made a special construction, scaffoldings. These scaffoldings consists of 3 corridors. Each corridor was 1 row of columns. Column was tied with ropes, then it was rolled into the corridor, and the ends of the ropes were fixed in capstans, special mechanisms which were used for raising big weights. People started to rotate capstans, ropes were wrapped and pulled the monoliths up. And it was very fast. People needed just 45 minutes to install this column into a vertical position. And here we see the end of this work. And here we see the model of scaffoldings. It is the original model of the 19th century, and this model allowed to show how these columns would be installed. And the same thing which we have seen now. 3 corridors. On the right side we see the column, and on the left side we see capstans. Here we see just 3 capstans, but there were 16 capstans, and 8 people rotated 1 capstan, so 128 people could install the columns into a vertical position. After installing columns, masters started to build the walls, and the cathedral walls, they are very thick. Their thickness varies from 2.5 meters to 5 meters, and it took 6 years to create these walls. And the next stage in the creation of the temple was the creation of the main dome, and I suggest us to come closer to the model of this dome. And here we see the model of the dome. It is one of the biggest dome in the world, and it was one of the first dome which had a metal structure. A metal dome, it weighted less than a brick dome, which reduced the risk of temple's destruction. And this dome consists of 3 parts. This part we will see a little later. The middle part, it is hidden from us, and the outside dome you have already seen today. It is the golden dome of the cathedral, and it hasn't been gold plated again, it hasn't been gilded again. We still see the original gold of the 19th century. And here we see a sculpture portrait of the main architect of the cathedral. His name was Auguste Montferrand. Montferrand was born in Paris in 1786. He received a brilliant education in the Royal Academy of Architecture, but at the age of 30 he left Paris. He came to Saintpetersburg because he felt that he could embody his projects, his plans in Russian Empire, and he wasn't mistaken. He became very famous, very popular architect. He had a lot of orders in Saint Petersburg and in other cities in Russian Empire. For Saint Petersburg, another his outstanding work, it is Alexander Column on the Palace Square. But Montferrand considered that Saint Isaac's Cathedral was his main creation because 40 years he was the main architect of this cathedral. He started the construction of cathedral in the age of 32, and he finished this process at the age of 72, 40 years of his life. And this sculpture portrait, it was made of the same kinds of marble which Montferrand used in the interior decoration, and it emphasized the idea that this temple was the main creation of this master. Some kinds of marble were mined near Saint Petersburg. For example, this pink marble, it was mined near Saint Petersburg, but this green marble and this white marble, it was brought from abroad, from Italy. We are in the central part of the cathedral, and here we can see the interior of this temple very good. And as we already told, the Italian marble was used for stones of this temple. This white, yellow, green marble, all these kinds of marble were mined in Italy. And the most rich decoration received this icon stand. Here we see green columns. They were made of malachite, and 2 columns in the central part, blue columns, they were made of lapis lazuli. These stones, they are semi-precious stones, and it is a very rare example when we can see them in such big amount. And there is one very unusual detail for Orthodox Church. Here one can see the stained glass. The area of the stained glass is 25 square meters, and it was made in Germany, in Munich, at the Royal Porcelain Factory, which considered the best in the Europe in the 19th century. There are a lot of monumental paintings in this temple, 103 monumental paintings, and they tell us a biblical story from the first days of this world to its last days. And on the west side we can see scenes of the creation of this world. Adam and Eve, they are in paradise, and a little upper we see God, He blessing His creation. Here we see the creation of the world, and on the opposite side we see the last day of this world, the scene of last judgment. And it is very unusual when this scene is in this part, in south part. Usually we can see it in western part, but in St. Isaac's Cathedral all murals they are organized in chronological order from west to south, so we see the scene here. This mural, it is one of the biggest in the cathedral. The area of this mural is 250 square meters, and the biggest mural is above us. The area of this mural is 816 square meters, and it was painted by the greatest Russian painter. His name was Karl Brylov, and to paint this mural he climbed up to the very top on special scaffoldings, and he regularly worked at the height of 60 meters. And this composition, it is named Madonna in Glory. We can see Madonna on the side of icon stand. She sits on a throne, dressed in a blue cloak, and saints around her, they bow their heads before her. But the central point of this composition is a dove flying above the temple, and this sculpture, it seems to be very small, but the wingspan is more than 2 meters. It was very difficult to keep murals in this temple in the 19th century because it was cold here, it was wet, and all different images, they were replaced by mosaics. And here we can see one of these mosaics. We can notice that it isn't painting, that it is a mosaic, only when we come close to this image. Here we see that this mosaic, it consists of small pieces of smalt. Smalt, it is multicolored glass, and masters, they tried to achieve the illusion of painting, and they wanted to convey all the color details of paintings. So they used 12,000 shades of smalt. Mosaic icons were used for the icon stand. They were used in the first level of icon stand and in the second level of icon stand. And some icons are obligatory in the icon stand. Near golden gates, on the left-hand side, we always see Virgin Mary. On the right hand side we see Jesus Christ, and the next icon and is icon of the saint to whom this temple was dedicated. It is image of Saint Isaac of Dalmatian. There are three great doors in this cathedral. The area of the doors is 42 square meters, and they remind us of golden gates of the baptistry in Florence. The great Russian sculptor Ivan Vitali used the same composition here. And these doors, they tell us Christian history, and if we speak about these doors, they tell us history of Russian Orthodox Church. On the left-hand side, it is the history of baptism of Russia, and on the right-hand side, it is the life of Russian saint Alexander Nevsky. And I would like to pay your attention to this scene. It is very interesting scene. Here we see the image of Peter the Great, emperor who founded Saint-Petersburg. Peter the Great took holy relics of Alexander Nevsky to Saint-Petersburg, to Alexander Nevsky Monastery. And these doors, they are very heavy. The weight of these doors is more than 20 tons. But two people can open these doors due to special mechanisms. They still work and allow us to open these doors. Today, St. Isaac's Cathedral, it isn't only a museum, it is also an active cathedral, and services are held here each day, with the exception of Wednesday, in the morning and in the evening.
So we are going to get closer to the heaven, and for that reason we are going to climb more than 200 steps. So the height of the colonnade is 43 meters, and from there, from the top of it, we're going to see a very beautiful view on the city and the main squares. So the observation deck is on the 43 meters height, and it also has beautiful columns around. They were manually lifted up to this observation deck. From the observation deck, it's possible to see the palace square as well as the Winter Palace. Winter Palace these days hosts one of the most wonderful collections in the world, the Hermitage collection, which is worth visiting while you are in St. Petersburg.